Wednesday night OWCP chats with Chris and Gini. But there's no Chris tonight. So you're welcome to Wednesday night OWCP chats with Genie and Genie. So Chris is out of town. He is in Ohio with our partners, just doing yearly strategy work, trying to find new ways and better ways to train our franchisees, to help you guys out there get your claims accepted and make it such an easy process for you guys. So that's why he's missing tonight. He may hop on tonight. If you see him, he may do a little shout out through the messages. But we're going to have Emmy and Jennifer, our case managers that work for us at Federal Injury Centers. And if you have any OWCP questions, they will be able to answer them. But tonight, we have a very special guest. His name is Thomas. He is the New York, New Jersey TSA vice president, and he's going to tell us a little bit about what's going on in TSA with everything that's happening with the federal employees nationwide. He's going to talk about things that are happening in DC, things that are happening within their local. He's also going to talk about, what's going on with their members when they get injured on the job. So, with that said, let me bring him on. And there he is. This is Thomas, everybody. Give some hearts. He is New York, New Jersey's TSA Vice President. Thomas, go ahead, introduce yourself.
Thank you. My name is Tom Strag. I'm the vice president for Local 2222 that represents New York and New Jersey. I've been a TSO for 23 years. I've been there since the very beginning. I've been there since the very inception of TSA. I know what it was like to join TSA. I know a lot of people don't like us because we take away a lot of your stuff, your suntan lotions and stuff. But there is a reason for why everything is done, and I just think that people need an understanding of why we do what we do.
Yes, we'd love to
Um,
hear.
we don't enjoy taking away your lotions and things like that, but there are things that we know as federal employees, or like it says on our SF50, we are federal officers. It says it on our SF50s, and that's what we are. We carry a badge, but we don't carry a gun. um so I started TSA because I used to work in Manhattan. I was in Manhattan. I was literally 7 blocks away when the first plane hit the World Trade Center,
Wow.
and me and my boss were there. We were going to go visit for a client. I used to do computer graphic design, and what happened was we went to go visit a client, and we saw the explosion. We didn't see it, but we saw the actual explosion. We looked up, and we were like, "Oh, they must be filming a movie."
Oh my
And
gosh.
we realized, after about a minute or two, that guess what? It's not a movie. And then all of a sudden, we're standing there watching. We saw the second plane hit, and we were like, we're out of here, and we left.
Wow.
At the time, my sister, she used to work for Mayor Giuliani. She used to write his speeches. And
Wow.
what happened was, I had lost my job due to the World Trade Center being hit because a lot of our clients were out of there, and the company was going down. So at the time, my sister told me, she goes, "Hey, listen, there's a company, there's an agency coming out that we got windfall of. It's called TSA." I applied for TSA, and then literally less than like 2 hours, they called me for the job interview because they were mass hiring right at the bat. They were just trying to fill
Right.
the airports. And I've been there since, for 23 years. I love what I do. I love more the union aspect because I love being the voice for the people who don't have a voice. I love being that sword and shield for that person when they're having trouble. It's what I thrive on. I even thought about dipping my toes into the political pond and getting into, my city assembly and, going for Congress one day. And it's what I love to do. I love speaking up for people.
Nice.
And, I've been part of my local union. I've been part of the union since 2007, before there was even a union involved. I became an appointed vice president by my president, Hydrick Thomas, back in 2010. I've been on my local board since I think 2013, 2014. I've been on my local executive board, and I've been there ever since. and I love what I
Nice.
do.
So tell us what's going on right now with everything going on politically. And for those of you out there, we're not going to this is not a political talk, but we do, and everybody wants to know. I mean, even the regular people that are watching that are not federal employees, what's happening right now with everybody, and what are things that should they be scared? Should they not be scared? There's rumors going back and forth. We see Mr. Kelly out there, with you guys. So what's going on?
So, as everybody or a lot of people know, March 7th, the Trump administration uh, took away our contract. They said no more contract, and they got rid of it. We weren't the only ones. There was, I believe, 4 or 5 other federal agencies that were being faced with the same thing. And Mr. Kelly was out there fighting on Capitol Hill for us, saying that what the Trump administration was doing was illegal. And
Oh,
yeah, so we were all sent back to the terminals in uniform right away. Me personally, I worked in the terminals for 9 days. As you know, I reached out to you. I got hurt, and
right,
now OW, work Department of Labor is asking me for all this information. The agency is trying to fight my claim, saying that I'm lying in what I was doing, and but it's all right. I'm used to this.
yeah,
I'm used to fighting the agency. This is nothing new to me. I'm not a timid individual. I grew up in Queens, New York, so I'm not. I don't get timid very easily.
right,
But we just recently, as of last Thursday, we did get our union back. The we did fight. AFGE won the appeal, or the injunction, I should say. They won the
right,
injunction. We got our union back, and yeah, we're trying to fire in all cylinders right now to let the officers know that the union was never gone in the first place. We were always here. We were always fighting for their rights. We were always here, talking on their behalf. There were people during that time. And I even reached out to you for a couple people that were, dealing with injuries and stuff like that. And I still reached out to you guys, and you guys helped them. So even though they stopped union dues, that was another thing that the Trump administration did. They stopped manual dues, so we had to run out and sign people up for e-dues to try to, make these locals run.
right,
And it was not an easy feat to do, because how do you expect to sell a product to someone when they feel that the product isn't there? And
correct,
it's just instilling trust into them, and showing that, listen, I've been here for you from day one. You've been with the agency for the last 10 years. I've been here for 10 years. I'm not going anywhere. I'm not going anywhere soon. We're still here to help. Our president, Hydrick Thomas, really pushed for us to make sure that, let the officers know that we're not going anywhere, that we're still here to protect them. We're still here to help them with their rights. They get write-ups, we're still going to fight for them. Regardless if we're not under that AFGE name, we're still here to help them during that process. So as of right now, we're hoping and praying that the agency doesn't file an appeal against the injunction, because for the people who did listen to the injunction, the judge pretty much told the district attorney, saying, listen, the United States can't just go around canceling contracts whenever they want, because it's not legal.
right,
We have a legal binding contract with the Transportation Security Administration for 7 years, and we expect them to uphold that contract. We sat down in good faith and we negotiated for almost 6 months that, this is the contract we have. This is what the officers want. There's always improvement to a contract to get better things for officers. But I think a lot of officers saw what happened when they lost the union, and how the agency came out and pretty much said, well, we're going to do whatever we want. We don't care what you say. It reverted back all the way down back to 2010, when we didn't have a union at all. And it's scary for a lot of people, because a lot of people don't know where to run to. They don't know who to go to. Like, there's no union. Like, that's what supervisor management and FSD staff was telling officers. You don't have a union. So we were trying to tell them, they're lying to you. You do have a union, and we are here to protect you. We are here to, be your voice. So it was difficult, but things are getting back on track. We have great leadership in our union, in the council, and in my local as well. We're just, one day at a time. And, I'm trying to get back into work, but they're making it very, very difficult with my workers' comp. Very, very difficult. And, it's going to get to the point where, Department of Labor is probably going to come back with a response and tell me that, my claim has been denied. And then I got to reach out to certain people to fight that claim, to rebuttal it. But I'm not worried. I know what happened. I know what I did, and how I got injured and stuff like that. So I'm not worried at all. This is nothing new to me.
Why do they make it so hard for you guys even when you get injured? What's the reasoning behind it? What are their thoughts and thinking?
So their thoughts is a lot of times, even when officers get hurt at work, you'll hear managers or supervisors goes, "Oh, it's not that bad. You can go
Right.
back to work." Like, you're not a doctor. Like,
Right.
as a representative, I tell officers, like, if when I see them and they're like, "Oh, I just banged my finger into the machine, that hurt. Go fill out a CA7." They're like, I just banged my finger. It's fine." I was like, "Yeah, it's fine now." But what happens in 2 days when your finger's 4 times the size, and you come to find out it was because your finger got infected, or you
Right.
fractured a bone in your finger? It's like you never know what's going to happen somewhere down the line. So
Right.
you get a lot of these managers and stuff like that. They'll look at the cameras and they'll be like, "Oh, you didn't really hurt yourself. That's all. Oh, come on. I fall like that all the time and I get right back up." That's you.
Right.
Everybody's different. Everybody's bone density is different. Everybody's structure is different. You don't know how they fell and hit that floor. At the end of the day, it should always be the well-being of the officer. The officer should always have their well-being should always be the first priority. Oh, you fell? Not a problem. Do you need medical attention? Do you need us to call, where we work as Port Authority, do you want us to call PAPD? Do you need us to get you an ambulance? It's never that. We've had instances that were so mortifying that you wouldn't even believe if I told you. Officers that had such serious injuries, and they're like, "Oh, don't worry about it. Just go back to the lane." And if they don't go back to the lane, they'll get threatened with getting written up, or threatened to lose their job if they're under a year probation,
Wow.
because officers are scared. And
Yeah.
that is the culture in TSA, that management does things with fear when it comes to officers. And
Right.
officers just don't want to get in trouble. They just want to do their jobs. And they do their jobs. They are the very best. And I'm not knocking any other federal agency. I'm just knowing what I work with. And TSA is the very best at what they do. And people might laugh at that and they say, "Oh, well, you guys just pat down old ladies and little kids." And we our job at the end of the day is to protect the flying public, to make sure that no bombs or anything get on that aircraft, to bring down that plane so you guys can go from point A to point B without a problem or an issue. We are flawless in our record. And this is something that I pitch to the Senate and Congress all the time. We have never had one incident under our watch since our inception in the last 23 years. Not one plane has gone down, not one plane has been hijacked. It just goes to show the testament of what these officers do every single day.
Right.
They're very good at what they do, and I always tell officers all the time, don't talk while you're working. Stay focused on your x-ray. Stay focused on your bag checks, because if let somebody distract you and God forbid something gets on that plane, there goes flight 754 and almost 400 people dead because you wanted to talk about what happened last night in the basketball tournament or what happened in the football game. It's not worth it.
Right.
Our officers are very intelligent individuals. They're very good at what they do. They sacrifice a lot. Under the last Trump administration, we had a shutdown for 45 days. That's a long time to not get a paycheck. Some of these officers live paycheck to paycheck. And they didn't get a paycheck for almost 2 months, because by the time the government opened up and by the time they got their pay, officers were finally getting paid 2 months later. They were living out of pantries. How do you
Right.
tell a federal employee, in order to feed your family, you got to go to a soup kitchen to feed your family because there's no money? But at the same time, your job is threatening to fire you if you don't come in, because it's your job as a federal employee and for a first responder to be at work. So then how do I tell my family I got to take the last $20 and put it in the gas tank to a job that's not paying me, instead of paying my bills, instead of putting food on the table? It was very hard. A lot of people don't, and I know VA goes through a lot, and a lot
Right.
of other federal agencies go through a lot. So at the end of the day, when like what we say when we go to DC in January, and we meet all the other federal agencies and stuff like that. When we sit down there with our districts, Dave Gonzalez and everything, that we meet all the other people from Bureau of Prisons, VA. Uh, they always stick up for us. They always say, "Listen, when we go down there and we talk to our congressmen and senators, we're going to talk about how you guys need to be on Title V." Because TSA is the only agency under DHS, excuse me, that is not under Title V.
Okay.
We're the only ones. So when TSA, a lot of people don't know, when TSA was first incepted in 2002, the Bush administration created the Aviation Transportation Security Act. TSA was only supposed to be a band-aid for 5 years because the flying public after 9/11 wasn't flying. So they needed to get the federal agents inside to say, "Listen, we're now federalized. It's safe to fly." After
Right.
5 years, we were supposed to be gone. They were supposed to get rid of us in order to, but they found out that it's easier, cheaper, and better to keep the federal agencies in the checkpoints. So we were never able, when they merged everybody under the DHS umbrella, we were the only ones that were under the DHS umbrella, not under Title V. And that's what we've still been fighting for. It's always been our main goal, is to try to get officers on Title V.
So, so what we've been seeing and hearing, like so many thousands of whether it's TSA, BOP, USPS, they are firing them, letting them go, giving severance packages. Are you seeing and hearing any of this?
Well, we don't get severance packages. They just fire us. We don't
Oh,
get any of that. We just get let go, depending on what people are doing. Like the biggest thing, like I said, when officers in TSA get injured, in our policies, they have up to 365 days, which is 1 year, to recover from that injury. If they don't recover within that injury, they put them on what they call a work program. Because pretty much they're saying that you can't maintain the job of a TSA officer. You can't lift bags. You can't do this. You can't do that. So guess what? We're going to find you another job within the federal government where you're able to work under what your restrictions are. I have been dealing with OWCP people for 13, 15 years, and I'm talking hundreds of people who have been let go because of their OWCP, and I only know one person that's ever been actually given a job. One out
wow.
of hundreds. And that's only in my local. That's not talking about all the other locals across the country.
Right.
Everyone, as soon as they hear this job work program, they're like, "Oh, they're fired. They're gone."
What is the
And it's
max?
just, go ahead.
What is the max? Like with like USPS, they're looking like they want to retire in 30 years. What do you guys have it as?
So
Is it
we're
30
we're
years,
we're
25
we're
years?
vested. We're vested after 5,
Okay.
but the retirement is pretty much after 20. Well,
Okay.
our retirement is 65. So it doesn't matter how I can retire. Like I have 23 years. I'm 46 years old next month. I could retire now, but I can't collect my pension until I'm 45. And
Oh,
if I want an early, if I might be saying this wrong, but if we want early retirement, where we want to collect our pension early, and I think it's at 63, there's a 25%, what is it called? 25% tax or whatever. They reduce it by 25%. That's what it is. So
oh
there
wow.
is a penalty for getting it early. But yeah, we have to wait till we're 65, regardless of how many years of service we have.
Oh, wow. Okay. So on the news right now, or in the last month or so, they've been talking about Newark Airport. What is going on with this Newark Airport? And so, how many airports do you oversee and what states so people understand and know where you're coming from?
So I cover as the vice president New York and New Jersey. So we have in Newark, we have Newark Airport, obviously, and Trenton Airport. And in New York, it's JFK, LaGuardia, MacArthur, Westchester, Stewart, Albany, Syracuse, Buffalo, Ithaca, Elmira, Binghamton, and there's one all the way on the border, Plattsburgh. There's one in Watertown, which, believe it or not, Watertown, which is right on the border of Canada, they actually have a Mountie on the checkpoint because there's a part of the checkpoint that's in Canada.
Nice.
But yeah, so that's what that I cover as the vice
So,
president for the local.
so what's going on in Newark Airport where everybody's like, "Don't fly into Newark." What's going on?
I mean, it's all hearsay. There's nothing going on.
Okay.
Officers. I mean, I guess it's just I don't know if it's a scare tactic or just hearsay or gossip that's gotten crazy. But there's nothing going on in Newark. Newark officers are some of the best officers in the country that I know of. Just like the rest of the local, but they're very dedicated to what they do. I don't think anyone's ever has to worry about going through Newark Airport and be like, oh well, they're not paying attention. That's a lie. Because if something was so bad and something was so crazy, then something would have happened by now. And these officers are very, very dedicated to what they do. They're very diligent. They take their job very serious. Because at the end of the day, whatever job you do, you got bills to pay, and you don't want to lose that job.
Right.
You have mortgages to pay. You got, your kids, you got car notes, you got mortgages. People don't want to lose their jobs. They take their job very serious. They come to work every day. They come to work every day under conditions of being bullied by management, and they still do the job to the best of their ability.
I have a question here for you. It says, I'm curious how many injured officers and people from other agencies become claims examiners.
That I don't know.
You don't know?
Uh,
Okay.
that I don't know. I don't have an answer to that. Like how many people from other agencies become claim examiners? That I have no idea. I only really much deal with the officers themselves. I don't know who leaves the agency themselves to become claim examiners. That I don't know.
This Jill said, is it outdated equipment in Newark?
No, Newark actually it just redid a huge portion of their airport, so a lot of their equipment is updated. So they have some of the best equipment that's in the country. And at the end of the day, it's not the equipment that's going to stop something; it's the officer. And I've always pitched that to Congress and the Senate about how they need to invest more into the officer because it's the officer who controls the equipment. They
Right.
know what they're looking for. They know what they're seeing on these images, and they know what to look for. You're not going to pull a fast one on these people. They're so highly trained, and TSA makes it very uh, they make it very known that they constantly train officers every month. They give them updates on what's going on. They give them updates on what the new threat is, and it's constantly updated. There's just a lot that we know as officers that the flying public doesn't know. But
Right.
TSA is very very vested in training. They just opened up a I don't remember how much it was. I want to say it was like a $40 million facility down in Virginia with the newest tech and the newest of everything. And a lot of officers they even have to go down to Georgia Flexi. They got to go to Flexi, which is a military base, and they got to go to training for there too. So the training is there. But again, the threat is always evolving. The threat is just it's no different than cars back in the days. It's all you had to do was pop the ignition switch and put two wires together. Now
Right.
car companies evolve and say, well, now we're going to put this to prevent them. And it's the same thing as terrorism. You have something in place, and you got people that are going to sit there and they're going to try to figure out how to get through. But our agency is always trying to be one step ahead or two steps ahead by training us and letting us know, hey, this is what's going on. This is the new training. This is what's going on. This is what's evolving. I mean, we go through machines like people go through iPhones. We
Oh,
get a machine, and then two years later, well, guess what, guys? You're getting new machines again, updated machines.
right.
They're constantly updating everything all the time.
What is it? What does the training consist for a TSA officer? How many
So,
weeks or months?
so I know that when they first start, they like I know for JFK personally, it's like when they first come, they go through like their initial training. They don't do much. They do like everything like their uniforms and stuff like that, and blah blah blah, and get all their credentials done. But then they go to Flexi for 2 months. I mean, for 2 weeks. They go down to Flexi. They get their initial training. Once they come back, their training is like 6 to 8 months
Oh,
once they get back to the airports because the agency will not sign off until they know that these people are trained and that they know what they're doing and they know what they're looking for. And that there's been very few incidents where the agency is just like, listen, we appreciate you trying out for this job, but we just feel that you don't cut it. This is something that's very serious. This is national security, and they want the only the best. Because,
right.
like I said, God forbid, a plane goes down under our watch. There's a lot of answers, a lot of questions to answer, and the agency makes sure that we're not going to be that.
So, did any of your employees, union members, with everybody getting fired, did you have a lot of cuts within TSA?
So we had initially, I believe, under the Trump administration, there was something like a 2,000 or a 4,000 probationary cut in employees. And it wasn't just because they had the title of probationary; they were removed because of attendance, or that's usually the biggest thing in TSA is the attendance. That's the issue is the attendance. Can't get these officers. A lot of them are young. They like to go out and party and stuff like that, and can't get them up to come to work. But
Right.
you still do have a lot of what we call old school people that have been there 15, 20 years that get there on time. Majority of people do. Majority of people, I mean, we're adults. If you go in for a job, and a job says, hey, you got to work at 4 a.m., you get there at 4 a.m. There's no excuses to say, well, I can't make it and this and that. Not a problem. It's like any other business. If you can't fulfill the job, then guess what? We're going to find somebody else that will.
Right.
But for the most part, officers come to work, they do their job, and at the end of the day, they leave. They're not very big into clowning around and things like that.
So I know you've been doing some live Facebook lives talking to your TSA group. You have them on here. What do you have to say to them? What do you want them to know about what's going on, especially the ones that are, maybe are not paying attention to what you're saying or don't get a chance to talk to you? Because I know I saw the post the other day. One of the guys said you're one of the best guys that he knows. And I thought that was really sweet.
Yeah, he's an awesome
Bunty,
guy. He's
yeah,
out of Newark. He's out of Newark.
yeah,
Bunty Singh, I think it was.
yeah, he's so cool.
He's an awesome individual. But listen, at the end of the day, I could sit here and I could talk for hours and hours and on end, and letting officers know what's going on, what's happening, what they should be doing. But it's like the old saying: I could you lead a horse to water, but you can't make him drink.
Right.
I could sit here till I'm blue in the face, and I don't say these things just to say them. I say them because I've been all the way up to, been with the agency for 23 years. I've been a vice president for my local for almost 13 years. I was part of the council on one of the biggest contracts for 3 years, or 2 years, I'm sorry. So I know what goes on. And I just try to explain to people, and maybe it's like, what our parents told us when we were kids: you're hard headed. You don't
Yeah.
want to listen because you think you're a kid and you're invincible. And listen, at the end of the day, I'll give you the advice to come to work. Even if you choose not to come, if you say, oh, I'm going to use TSA as a stepping stone to go somewhere else. I want to go to the FBI. I want to go to the VA. I want to go somewhere else. Well, while you're here, do your job.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, when you sit there and you run this machine and people put their bags in it, they're trusting you with their lives. And people might say, oh, there's no real threat. Trust me, there's a threat. Because we've caught a little abuela in 90 years old in her wheelchair with a loaded 9mm Glock underneath her butt.
What?
And the reason for it is because they say, oh, when I go to DR, it's very dangerous. So
Wow.
don't think that we're just patting people down just to pat them down, and knowing terrorism does not have an age, gender, religion, or any type of description.
Right.
Anybody could be a terrorist. That's why we don't profile. People will sit there and say, well, it's only Muslims. That's not true. Timothy McVeigh was white as snow, and look what he
Right.
did. So we don't discriminate on who we feel is going to be a terrorist. Everyone to me is a terrorist, whether you're
Right.
in a diaper or you're in a wheelchair. I don't trust anybody, and that is my job. It is my job to not trust you and make sure that you, your husband, and your family get to point A to point B, or whether you're on a business trip to get there safely. Because at the end of the day, that's what you want. You want to feel sound. I want to be able to fall asleep on an aircraft for my 4.5 hour flight without any problems and wake up and be at my destination. So for all the young people, not even the older people that have been there, just do your job. At the end of the day, you have literally, I want to say what they say, there's 1.4 million people a day that fly through TSA.
Yeah, I
That's a
saw
lot
that,
of
yeah.
people.
Yeah, that is
That's
a
a
lot.
lot of people that trust you every single day to do the job that you are hired to do. Just do it. That's all you got to do. And if you have a problem, you have an issue in your airport, reach out to your local union. Your executive board. Can't get in contact with your executive board, reach out to your regional. And I said this before: if you can't get into contact with your regional, reach out to Hydrick Thomas. That man's phone never sleeps. It doesn't matter whether it's 2 o'clock in the afternoon or 2 o'clock in the morning. You can always call him or always pick up his phone. Even if that man is dead asleep and you hear it in his voice, he'll be like, "Nope, I'm not sleeping. What do you need?" And he'll get you what you need.
Right.
But it's a great place to work. I mean, it's not bad. The job itself is very easy. You wake up. That's the hardest part. And people say, "Oh, it must get easy over the years." Nope, because guess what? My bones hurt. My body hurts. I've gotten to the point where I'm 40. I'll be 46 next month. My feet hurt before I get out of the bed. I'm like, how are my feet hurting
Yeah.
before I get out of the bed? How is it I gotta give myself a few minutes and put my feet on the side of the bed and just wait a couple minutes before I stand up?
I know, right?
But that's the hardest part of the job, is just getting into work. Because once you're into work, you work with some of the most amazing people. You really truly do. People that weren't born here, people who were born here, people who are ex-military, people who used to be law enforcement, people that used to be farmers in their countries and now they're working over here. They're citizens and they're working over here. You meet a lot of interesting, amazing people. I used to have a guy by the name of Dwayne, and there was a woman from Trinidad, Mama Joe. They used to go to Trinidad every year. And every year they used to bring me back timing balls. That was my gift that they gave me back every year. And I used to sit there and I
I'm
used
gonna
to eat
have to
timing
bring you
balls.
some.
Oh my God, I love timing balls. They're so addicting. But you build great bonds and relationships with people because a lot of these people that we work with, we see them more than we see our own families.
Yes.
Some of these officers spend 8 hours, they have 8 hour shifts, but a lot of them do overtime. A lot of them are working 10, 12 hour shifts a day. Then they go home and the only thing they can do is take care of their family real quick, shave, shower, do whatever they got to do, go to bed and wake up all over again and do it all over again.
What advice do you have to give TSA members that are currently, because no matter what, when you guys are going to Capitol Hill and getting this advice out to everybody, like, and you've been doing such a great job with it. I try to make sure that when you're on, I go ahead and share it so people can hear what you have to say. What advice do you have for them, the ones that are fearing their job currently?
I would say don't allow the fear to control your job. Because at the end of the day, everybody knows that that federal agencies, whether you're federal, state, city, there are always rules and regulations. Everything's in black and white. And
Right.
I always tell officers, as long as you're doing your job to what the policies say that you could do, why be afraid? They're afraid of retaliation. They're afraid that if I saw Tom get hurt, or if I saw Tom do this and I write a statement, I might get in trouble because I stuck up for Tom. No,
Right.
that's no different. That why would you allow somebody to be bullied? Why would you sit there and know what's going on? I've seen officers get hurt. I've seen CCTV footage of officers sitting watching, running the X-ray, and the chair completely collapse, and they
Oh,
fall, crack their head open, and then it's on CCTV footage. But then the agency will be like, "Oh well, we saw you playing around on the chair," and I'll talk to officers, and I'm like, "No, that's not what happened, Tom. Well, do me a favor, write that in a statement." No, man, I don't want to get involved
right.
because of fear. If you allow fear to control you in life, you never know where you'll be able to go. You
Right.
never know. What's that saying? They say that when you're scared at the most, that's when you take that leap. Because if you don't try, you never know what's going to happen.
Correct.
But just do your jobs. That's all I can ever ask of any officer. Just do your job. I know that they're treated like garbage, or they're mistreated and not treated right. Their pay is nowhere near where they need to be, but we're fighting. You got to give us a chance. And for the people who aren't in the union, you need to join the union
Yes.
because we can't do it on our own. A group of people is only as strong as the voices of the people that stay behind us. And I said this one time. We sat down with a senator one time, and he goes, Tom, let me ask you a question. He goes, what is your potential for your membership? And at the time, I think it was like 44,000. And he goes, well, how many people you have in your union? And at the time, I remember it was 18, close to a little over 18,000, but rounded off to 18,000. And he goes, your potential is 44,000 people, and you have only 18,000 in your union. He goes, what does that tell you? And I didn't know what to say. And he goes,
Right.
Tom, does that not show you that your own people don't care? And why should we care if they don't care? And it makes you put it into perspective. And I never really thought about it like that.
Right.
So it is, whose fault that is? That's my fault. Because I'm not educating officers on why it's so important to be part of a union, why it's important to back the union and become a member. I always tell people that being in a union is like having car insurance. When you have car insurance, you don't use it, you don't see it. But God forbid one day you get into an accident, that car insurance there is there to back you up.
I
Are
love
you
that.
willing to take 15 or 20 years of your federal service and risk your pension and your retirement because you all of a sudden didn't want to sign up for the union? That same girl that you guys helped me with in Newark, Gini, I kid you not, she reached out to me today. They're putting her in for removal. Guess what? She never signed up for the union during the shutdown. So
Oh,
now I'm going to her and saying, well, I asked you to sign up and you ignored me. She goes, yeah, but Tom, there wasn't a union. I said, there was a union. Your problem is that you listen to people. And now that you're being put in for removal, now you want our help. But where was your help to help us? I'm still going to help the girl, because
Right.
I don't ever wish for anybody to lose their job. I don't know her situation. I don't know if she's got kids, a mortgage, car payment. At the end of the day, I don't wish bad luck upon nobody. It is in my right. It's in my nature to just help people when people need help. Whether regardless whether you accept it or not, I'm always going to help somebody. But it's it's not it's I don't think the flying public has anything to worry about. They don't. You know, but I do encourage officers. I think the last time, I think in March, we were close to like maybe it was 23,000 members or close to 24,000. So we jumped about 3,000 or 4,000 members in a matter of a year. You know, because once everyone got the official time, they were out there and really pushing for, for union dues. And a lot of people said, hey, we see you out there. We see what's going on. And we got, the union secured one of the largest pay increases in federal history. They got a 30% increase in their pay. This was something that we fought for years because they were so neglected in pay that we fought tooth and nail and we got it.
Right.
We fought with Congress and the Senate and the bills passed and they got their equity pay. Then the following year, they got another 7.2% increase. Following year after that, they got another 1.5. So you're talking almost a 40% increase in their pay within a year and 2 years. That's huge. We are working for you. If you weren't getting what you needed, I would say screw the union. But the results are there. The results will show you. Like, I'll give you a perfect example. We have people that are on the council, people are in the union that I'll give myself an example because I don't want to talk about anybody else. But I remember when I was on vacation with my family in the Bahamas. And I remember almost every single day when I was in the Bahamas, I had phone calls with a girl dealing with an EEOC complaint for discrimination. My wife screamed at me so bad every day. Oh my God, the freaking union again. You're on vacation. This is what I was elected into doing. This is what I
Right.
love to do. I can't tell somebody no because I'm on vacation. There is no vacation. If I didn't want to be on vacation, if I wanted to be on vacation, then I would drop down from my position, enjoy my family, and never have to worry about anything again.
Right.
But I love doing what I do. I love being, again, like I said earlier, I love being the voice for the people who have no voice.
I love that. It's so funny. Chris and I, we were in Chicago, and I had a Federal Injury Center shirt, backpack. So did Chris. And I went through TSA. He went through TSA, and we went to go sit down at the gate. And I got a LinkedIn message from one of the TSA guys and said, "Did I just see you come through TSA? I saw you're wearing your shirt." And I said, "Yeah. Why didn't you say hi?" But it was busy. I mean, it was literally busy. I don't even think he could have said hello, how busy everybody was. But he managed to text me like within 10 minutes. And then the funny part was he goes, "Where's the other guy?" And Chris was the one right behind me wearing a Federal Injury Center shirt. But he just was like, "Where's the other guy? Where's?" And I was like, "No, he was there." So now Chris's official name is the other guy, and it's from
The
your
other
post from
guy.
PSA.
Well, it's like, so you guys are every Wednesday, and I notice like when you guys post in TSA Talk, there's not a lot of traffic or people that acknowledge it. That's why I said in the video, I think it was last week or the week before that, they need to listen and see what goes on and get the information, because that's the problem, is that the information is not getting to these officers. And when the information is being thrown in your face, I understand everyone has lives and not everyone can
Right.
jump on at a live stream at 8 o'clock. You get your kids ready for school and stuff like that. You don't got to watch it. Just listen,
Yeah.
because there's a lot of information that is being given on I keep saying podcast, but on the live stream that you and Chris do, that is unbelievable information. And like I explained to my president, I said officers don't can go on and just listen. They don't have to interact,
Right.
because there's literally people asking questions about their situations, and we can take that information and put it into our own agency, and we
Yeah.
can say, well, I remember them saying this, well, let me look this up, or I could do this, and oh, I remember her saying this. And we can use these tools. I mean, information is power.
It is.
It's the greatest thing that we have, is information, to be able to know what we can and can't do, because a lot of these officers don't know their rights. And that's the sad part, because a lot of them, when they go on break, they're so exhausted. They get a 15 to 30 and a 15. They get a 15-minute break. By the time they go to the bathroom and wash their hands, they're done. They got to go back to the lanes. I mean, we have information that they can look up on our TSA computers, but they don't have the time.
Right.
We have things that we have mandatory trainings that we have to do, and that's all they're able to do. So no one ever really is going to give us the information when it comes to OWCP. No one's going to give us the information when it comes to EEOC, because anything that goes against the agency, they don't like.
Right.
But these are people's rights. These are people's rights as federal employees, as tax-paying citizens, that they should know what it's like if I get injured on the job, that my job will cover me. And they fight like crazy. They fight us like crazy when it comes to work injuries, and it's sad. It is
So
really sad.
if somebody wanted to become a TSA agent, what do they have to do? What's the process?
So they can go on USA Jobs, and a lot of times they have the announcements on USA Jobs, and they just apply for it. But I know as of right now, if I'm not mistaken, I know the Trump administration put a freeze on almost everything.
Oh,
They're not
okay.
hiring. They're not doing, pretty much anything right now. Our biggest one, for a lot of officers, is uniform money. We under the union, we got almost $1,000 a year to spend on uniforms. Now we're at $288, which will probably pay for a pair of pants and a shirt. These
Wow.
officers are in uniform every single day, moving around. There's a lot of wear and tear on these uniforms, a lot of rubbing and stuff like that. So these uniforms wear out fast.
Yeah.
So, officers are getting to the point like, well, I'm just going to buy my clothes from Walmart and stick a TSA patch on it because I don't have the uniforms that I need in order to be able to do my job.
So, what's closing remarks for your TSA for everybody in New York, New Jersey, and I mean the rest of the United States? What do you have to tell them?
I love my TSA brothers and sisters. I truly do. I think they are some of the most remarkable, some of the best people I've ever met in my life. Are there people that I wish I never met? Absolutely. Like, that's anything in life. But at the end of the day, I would not change the journey that I've had in 23 years with TSA for anything. I've learned a lot. It's taught me a lot. It's made me a better person. It made me a stronger person. And for the flying public, you have nothing to worry about. There's nothing to worry. I mean, you're safe. These officers, they take their job extremely serious. Don't believe what you see on social media with a lot of this negativity. Oh, well, we failed so many tests and it's not. But yeah, but nobody's telling you that we caught over 10,000 firearms in a year. No one's telling you, like, we're taking these people's knives. Listen, that's our job. If that's what we're told to do, people complain, oh, well, you took my little knife that's this big. And well, guess what? That's my job.
Yeah.
It's no different whether you work for TSA or you work for Walmart checkout counter. If I have to say I need to see your receipt, that's what my job is.
Right.
And it's no different with TSA. If I'm told to do something, that's what I'm told to do. And I'm just asking you to listen. That's all we're asking you to do. Lines would go by so much faster if people would just listen what the officers are telling them to do. If they're saying take your laptops out your bag, take all your liquids out your bag, just take it out. Because at the end of the day, it's only for your safety and your safety only. But at the end of the day, I love my TSA officers. I love my brothers and sisters. That's what they are. Like, I see these people more than I see my own family, and I truly love them for who they are, what they are. They're my brothers and sisters. Might not be my blood, but they are my family.
Right.
And I truly appreciate everything that they do day in and day out.
We got a Ken Kishon said, "We appreciate you, Tom. Much love from Newark."
Oh, I know Ken. He's awesome people.
Chris is he's in Ohio. He said, "Thank you, Thomas. I appreciate you
Oh,
being
yeah, I
the
know you're
other
talking about.
guy."
Yeah, he's one of my friends on Facebook. He's one of my friends on Facebook. Listen, I met a lot of so I got there's certain people that I talk to, because I know, like, I got your invite to the podcast for cigars and bourbon and stuff like that. There's a guy that I see every time I go to DC. That's all we have. We sit
Nice.
down, we have a cigar, and we have our bourbon, and at the end of the day, after a long fight on Capitol Hill, that's what we do. And we sit there and we it's not even after the day is done and our job is done. Our job is really never done, and
Right.
we sit there and we relax amongst good people, good company, good vibes, and we sit there and we talk amongst each other and say, listen, what can we do to make things better?
Right.
Bouncing ideas off of one another, and it's amazing. The day that I leave, I mean, hopefully it's not for another 20 years, because I love doing what I do, or maybe my aspirations might take me into the political field and I might run for Congress one day. Who knows?
Nice.
But I love being the voice for people who don't have a voice. I should put that on a shirt.
You should.
But I love my TSA officers. I love my brothers and sisters. I truly, truly do.
Well, On behalf of myself and Chris and everybody, we thank TSA officers so much because without you guys, we can't be safe. We can fly knowing that nothing is on this plane to hurt us.
And when you guys come to New York, I got a plan and figure it out so me and Chris can sit down and have a cigar and a good bourbon.
We like I said, we will be there the last week of September, and you and I were gonna offline, in another couple weeks. I will get our schedule together, and we're gonna make this happen.
Okay, I'm gonna reach out to my president and let him know. Hydro Thomas, let him know that you guys want to meet him and talk to him. He's very open with things like that. So,
Yeah, we just wanna come hang out. It's not about federal injury centers or OWCP, it's just hanging out with you guys.
all right, sounds like a plan to me. I look
Thank
forward
you
to it.
so much, and if you ever wanna come on chats, you just tell me, and I will continue to share all your lives because people need to hear what's going on.
And people need to listen to you guys. Anybody that's listened to this, that's on TSA Talk, or any of my fellow brothers and sisters out there, you guys need to listen to this stream every Wednesday. The information is invaluable. This is information that they gain nothing from this,
No, we don't.
nothing. And they're sitting here educating us as federal employees on what you can and can't do. And if you are having a problem, you're having an issue, I guarantee you, I've done a couple times. I reached out to Ginny and Chris, and they said, "Tom, send him here." An officer comes back to me 2 days later. They're like, "Tom, they're a godsend. They saved my job. They saved my case.
Aw.
I still have my job, and it's absolutely amazing."
Well, that's really sweet to hear. So, all those TSA guys and girls in Newark, New Jersey, when you see Chris and I, don't be shy. Say hi.
And if you guys are ever flying out of JFK or Newark or anything like that, let me know.
I will.
I'll reach out to the reps that are out there and help you guys through without a problem.
Oh, thank you so much. Well, thank you again so much for being on tonight. We really appreciate it, and we'll have you back again. And
Awesome.
we'll see you soon in New York.
All right. Thank you guys. Love you guys.
Love
Appreciate
you guys
everybody.
too.
Bye.
All right, guys, that was so awesome to talk to a TSA union president that covers the state of New York and New Jersey. Did you guys hear um all of his places that he oversees, all of the different airports? A lot of you were asking, and I'm sorry, I we have Jennifer and Emmy on here answering questions. I am up and down, and I'm sorry we missed a couple of weeks of chats because of my dizziness. It's just been crazy. One day I'm super great, and the next day I can't get out of bed till like 3 o'clock. My equilibrium, something is off. Crystals in my head are not settling, so I'm going to be seeing a specialist. But thank you guys for all your sweet thoughts and prayers. I just want to let you guys know we are going to be in Charlotte next week, starting next Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday. Chris and I and Emmy and Jennifer, our case managers, we are headed to the Charlotte APW President's Convention, where all the APW presidents are going to be there. We look forward to meeting you guys. Come by at our booth. We have free OWCP Volume 4 books to give away. And even if you guys wanted us to come do a state or a national training, we will be there. We'll be able to lock you guys in. I will be bringing my calendar. So if you want to lock us in for next year, I'll have my calendar there. So if there's anybody that has any other questions that I don't really see here, so no, right? Let's see. Anybody have any other questions? And those of you that are in TSA Talk and all the TSA Facebook pages, reach out to Thomas if you want to know anything about us because he messages us all the time about questions. So we'd be glad to help you guys. Let's see. I'm just scrolling back through. Let's see if there's any questions that I missed. Mary, hello. Hello. Let's see. So, Chris, we will be on together next week because we will fly out on Thursday afternoon to Charlotte. So, other than that, I don't see any other questions. So, don't forget, you can find us on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, LinkedIn, and TikTok, where we stream live every Wednesday at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And what else? Oh, I am going to start setting up for probably August. You guys love when we did this last year. We're going to go ahead and start preparing ourselves for our Chris and Jeannie's Wednesday night OWCP chats, national OWCP training. We're going to probably do it right here on Facebook on our social media pages, instead of doing the Zoom. It was a little bit off on the Zoom, so we're probably just going to do it same way right here and do our 2-3 hour OWCP training. So once we get that together, I will give the dates. Last year we had over, what was it, 150 people on, which is not much. So you need to start telling your friends, coworkers, all your brothers and sisters in the different crafts, different agencies about what we do. We also do this. We can come to your state and national convention, as I said. And if you'd like us to do that, you can either message me here on Facebook or you can email me at genie@federalinjurycenters.com and I can get that scheduled for you. We still have some available openings for August, September, October, and that's it. After October, we are done. Let's see. Will there be an office in Tallahassee? Yes, we are working on Tallahassee. Joe, who does all of our finding doctors, is doing a great job. It's so hard for us to find the perfect doctor because a lot of the doctors don't want to do this. So let's see. All right. Frank, how are you? I saw you on there. And yes, I'm feeling okay for today. Lori said, I spoke with Devin Cassidy, the director of workers' compensation, which I found in my monthly union book, and he had told me I cannot appeal the work comp decision because I got a concussion and cannot remember where it happened. If you want, you can give us a call at 877-787-OWCP and we'll have somebody talk to you about that. How about Minnesota? All the states that are not listed at federalinjurycenters.com, just keep going back and checking, and we will. We're working on it. We are working on trying to get at least one location in every state. Just go to federalinjurycenters.com, click locations, and all of our locations are there. That's what we have. Whatever is there is there. As we get more, we add them on. So you just have to check back every so often. All right, just scrolling back on, making sure I answered everything. I know somebody earlier, I don't see the question anymore. Somebody asked me about state DOT physicals. This is just federal, what we talk about, federal work comp. We don't do state workers comp. All right, everybody. If there is any topics that you guys want us to cover and educate on, please comment below. Let us know. Message me. And with that said, we're going to go ahead and end tonight. Again, don't forget, we will be on next Wednesday, and then we will be in Charlotte for the APW's National President's Convention. We'll see you guys next week. And don't forget to tune into our podcast at Breaking OWCP. Bye, everybody. Have a good night.